Home of the ancient pharaohs, Egypt is a destination full of dazzling temples and tombs that wow all who visit. It's not all historic treasures and tourist attractions, though. With vast tracts of desert for 4WD adventures, the Red Sea's world-class coral reefs and wrecks for divers, and cruising on the famed Nile River, there are plenty of things to do in Egypt for all types of travelers. Beach lovers head to the Sinai or the Red Sea coast to soak up the sun, while archaeology fans will have a field day in Luxor. Cairo is the megalopolis that can't be beaten for city slickers, while Siwa Oasis and the southern town of Aswan offer a slice of the slow pace of the countryside. With so much to see and do, Egypt offers visitors a chance to create itineraries that combine culture, adventure, and relaxation all on one trip. Plan your sightseeing with our list of the top attractions and places to visit in Egypt. The last surviving wonder of the seven wonders of the ancient world, the Pyramids of Giza are one of the world's most recognizable landmarks. Having awed travelers down through the ages, these tombs of the pharaohs Cheops, Khufu, Khafre, Khafre, and Mycerinus, Menkaure, guarded by the enigmatic Sphinx, are usually top of most visitors' lists of tourist attractions to see in Egypt and often the first sight they head to after landing. Today, sitting on the desert edge of Cairo's sprawl, these megalithic memorials to dead pharaohs are still as wondrous a sight as they ever were and an undeniable highlight of any Egypt trip. Famed for the Valley of the Kings, Karnak Temple, and the Memorial Temple of Hatshepsut, the Nile-side town of Luxor in Upper Egypt has a glut of tourist attractions. This is ancient Thebes, power base of the New Kingdom pharaohs, and home to more sights than most can see on one visit. Luxor's East Bank is home to the modern city, with its vibrant souk, the two temples of Karnak and Luxor, and the museum. The West Bank's lush farmland and barren cliffs are where the vast majority of Luxor's tourist attractions sit, with so many tomb and temple sites that it has been called the biggest open-air museum in the world. Spend a few days here exploring the colorful wall art of the tombs and gazing in awe at the colossal columns in the temples, and you'll see why Luxor continues to fascinate historians and archaeologists. Egypt is defined by the Nile. For many visitors, a multi-day cruise upon this famed waterway that saw the rise of the Pharaonic era is a highlight of their Egypt trip. Cruising the Nile is also the most relaxing way to see the temples that stud the banks of the river on the route between Luxor and Aswan, plus sunrise and sunset over the date palm-studded river banks, backed by sand dunes, is one of Egypt's most tranquil vistas. The two famous sites on a Nile cruise are the Temple of Kamombo and Edfu's Temple of Horus, where all the big cruise boats stop. If you'd prefer a less crowded and slower experience, though, and don't mind roughing it a bit, you can also cruise the Nile by felucca, Egypt's traditional lateen-sailed wooden boats, which also allows you to create your own itinerary. The vast amount of cruise boat itineraries depart from either Luxor and Aswan, but feluccas can only be chartered for multi-day trips from Aswan. Below the Red Sea's surface is another world as fascinating as the temples and tombs on land. The coral reefs of the Red Sea are renowned among scuba divers for both the soft corals on display and the vast amount of sea life, ranging from colorful reef fish and nudibranchs, to sharks, dolphins, turtles, rays, and even dugongs. For divers, the most famous town to base yourself in is Sharm el-Sheikh on the Sinai Peninsula, closest to the reefs of Ras Mohammed National Park, as well as the reefs of the Straits of Tiran. To dive the sights of the Straits of Gubal, head to Hurghada or El Gauna on the Red Sea coast, while advanced divers should check out the resort of Marsa Alam, the nearest base for diving Egypt's deep south dive sites. As well as fish life and coral, the Red Sea is a major wreck diving destination. The most famous wreck is the Thistle Gorm, a British World War II cargo ship that was on its way to resupply Allied troops when it was bombed by the Germans in 1941. Today the site is regarded by divers as one of the top 5 wreck dives in the world due to the vast cargo of cars, motorbikes, and World War II memorabilia that can be seen both scattered on the seabed around the wreck and inside the ship itself. Dive boat trips to the wreck are organized from both Sharm el-Sheikh and Hurghada. A treasure trove of the pharaonic world, Cairo's Egyptian Museum is one of the world's great museum collections. The faded pink mansion in downtown Cairo is home to a dazzling amount of exhibits. It's a higgledy-piggledy place, with little labeling on offer and chronological order severely lacking. Instead, every corner you turn here is home to some wonderful piece of ancient art or statuary, which would be the highlight of any other museum. The museum's star collection is the Hall of Golden Treasures unearthed from Tutankhamun's tomb in the Valley of the Kings. Travelers should note that the Egyptian Museum's swag of riches is in the process of being transferred to the new Grand Egyptian Museum, GEM, in Giza, near the pyramids, which is tentatively due to open, after years of delays, in November 2022. The gem will finally provide this world-class collection with a worthy showcase, and the entirety of Tutankhamun's treasures, many of which have been kept in storage for years, will finally be completely on display. One of the oldest monasteries in the world, St. Catherine's, stands at the foot of Mount Sinai, amid the desert mountains of the Sinai Peninsula, where Moses is said to have received the Ten Commandments. This desert monastery is home to an incredible collection of religious iconography, art, and manuscripts, some of which can be seen in the on-site museum, as well as the burning bush. For most visitors here, a trip to St. Catherine's also involves a hike up Mount Sinai to see sunrise or sunset. Take the camel path for the easy route, or climb the famous Steps of Repentance if you want better views. Egypt's Red Sea coastline offers swaths of sand for travelers who want a time out from temple viewing. During winter, the resorts scattered along the shore surrounding Hurghada jump into life as European families arrive on package tourism breaks. The big bonus of choosing a resort on the Red Sea coast over one on the Sinai Peninsula is that you are within day-tripping distance to Luxor, so this is best place to visit for beach life if you still want to easily see some of Egypt's most famous monuments. Hurghada and El Gauna are the two main resort towns, while the smaller, and still being developed, town of Marsa Alam is much farther south. The Temple of Hathor at Dendera was built in the late Pharaonic era and extended during the Roman period, though Dendera itself was an important cult center from early on in the period of ancient Egypt. A trip here is well worth a day trip from Luxor, as the temple's youth, in comparison to other pharaonic temples, means that it is one of the most complete surviving temples in Egypt. The reliefs and decoration here are in an excellently preserved state. In particular, while in the hypostyle hall, which was built by the Roman Emperor Tiberius, note the columns topped by heads of the Egyptian god Hathor, and the wall reliefs of the emperor paying tribute to the Egyptian gods. Dendera is just outside the city of Gena, 80 kilometers north from Luxor.